You know, this is always hard for me, what we're about to do, because I absolutely despise being outdoors. I just want to sit inside on a couch. Okay, that's a bunch of bull. I'm sitting here, and before I'm going to bring Kyle Agre in, I had a chance to visit with him a little bit, and I'm whining about not being able to get out and pheasant hunt more. I love being outside in North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, and I know you do too. I know you do. So many of you that are watching Beck News. Well, I've got the perfect guest for you. Kyle Agre of Brewer-Agre Outdoors. Kyle, good to have you coming down the road with us again.
Great being here, Joel. Fantastic.
Last time we talked,
yes,
you were standing by a lake.
I sure was.
And you could have landed pigeons on my lip. I was so jealous of you. Man, I want your life. I want to do what you're doing. You got to dig this job.
I love it. I'm living the dream. And, it's the outdoors, right? We live here in the best part of the world. And you can do it out on your own. You can do it with friends. You can do it with family. That's what makes it so great.
Yeah. Well, the Fargo Ice Show is going to be going on at Scheels this weekend. Tell people what this is all about.
Well, I tell you what, this is the place where you go to get all the gear you need for this upcoming ice season. And Joel, when you talk about hunting season, you talk about the fishing opener, there's a date on the calendar, right? There's always a date on the calendar. Ice fishing is not that way. We're at the whim of Mother Nature. But one thing we know, it's not going to be too far. I mean, there's a few people that have ventured out on foot, but it's only going to progress busier and busier. And this is the place to go to get all the gear, all the leading brands in the industry, all the products, the new stuff, the old stuff, it's all there.
This was the show that made my old gas Eskimo ice auger ticked at me every time I look at it. And I'm not bashing Eskimo. That thing works for years for me.
Yes.
And if I cranked it up again, it would work. But my new battery operated, auger, just gone, done, so much easier.
They are great. And honestly, Joel, gas is still out there, propane is still out there, but the bulk of the industry in ice fishing has gone electric, as you have. And the ions or the Eskimo pistol bit now is really the latest, and that you hook up to your brushless drill. I mean, It's so light and easy to carry around. You can throw it in the sled, and you don't even know it's there.
Will it go through the hard ice? It will, huh?
All of it.
Okay, what about the ice over in your fish house where you're still fishing but you haven't been there for a week? Will it go through that?
Reopening old holes. They excel at reopening old holes. Both the Ion and the Eskimo, they have the ring down around the blade on the bottom, and that is the key to opening up those holes.
Well, as long as it can do that, I'm a happy man.
There you go.
Because once I set that fish house down, I tend to go back to it, 2-3 times. But it's pretty frozen over when I get to it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now, the gear. Tell me the latest, the greatest. What are you seeing out there?
Well, first off, if you look at the ice show, they've expanded into that west auditorium at the Scheels Arena, and they've got all the hard houses, right? The wheel houses, the glaciers, the ice castles, and all those. And so they're all on display inside. And of course, they're always changing designs and models. If you're a mobile or a portable person in the industry, you're going to see all the portable, the flip over shacks, the hub shacks. The Outbreak is the one you want to look at. The Outbreak is the hub shack, so the pop-out shack that actually they've gone away from the D doors, right? And if you're a guy like me, you're always worried about tripping, trying to get in and out of those doors. Well, this Outbreak, the door it's big, it's wide, and goes all the way down to the ice. You can drive a wheelchair, you can drive a four-wheeler in and out of that door, and it just makes life great.
Okay, so you talk about all these different options, but can you get it? I mean, because I'm hearing so much when it comes to gear, no different than ammo when you're hunting. You can't find it.
Yes.
I mean, is the gear going to be there?
Well, there's no doubt the supply chain crisis, if you will, has affected the outdoor industry, and certainly ice fishing is a part of that. With that being said, there's a lot of opportunity to buy. I don't know that I'd walk by something you wanted to buy and think it's going to be there in another few weeks. But you look at the ice show, you look at the sporting good retailers, and they're doing a really good job of keeping things available. And you know what? Maybe it might not be this specific thing you were looking for, but there might be a couple other alternatives that are really close. And so in some cases, you might need to be a little flexible, but nonetheless, you're going to be able to get, I think for the most part, a good selection of product.
You mentioned Ion, Vexlar, those type of brands. You know, the early stuff that I had, you know, you figured it out and you looked and it was, I mean, nowadays it's like, come on. I mean, it's that Maxima or the Magnum that I have that has a camera down it. If my dad would have seen that stuff, he would have said, really? Is it that hard anymore? I mean, there's a lot of things underneath the ice that you can do now.
Oh, it's incredible, Joel. And as far as, you know, your basic sonar flasher technology is still important in ice fishing, but you have the cameras, you have the high definition cameras, and how fun when you're taking the grandkids out or the kids out to be able to put a camera down when the bite is slow and see, yeah, there are fish down there. And yeah, we can see this and that. But some of this live technology that's out there as well, where you can actually turn and point a transducer and use radar under the water to watch fish react to your bait. It just takes it to a whole nother level.
I didn't need to hear that. So I need to bring my checkbook, is what you're saying.
For sure.
And don't walk by it.
Don't walk by it.
You know, and you mentioned kids. I take my grandkids out ice fishing a lot, and it doesn't matter if it's a 10-inch crappie. You know, if they catch a perch that big, they're smiling. You know, just put it back in the hole.
Yes. Just make sure they're not hungry. Make sure they're not cold. Make sure they're not bored. You know, and when you're out there, if you can cross those things off the list, you got it.
What about some of the really cool fish houses that you can go? I mean, I've seen fish houses, and there's a group of guys down in our country that turn that into their winter activities in the sense that they take vacations and then they go from lake to lake, but collectively. And I'm talking about like 30 houses at a time, you know, all, you know, like they're on a motorcycle run. And you go in their houses because they'll come down to the lake I live on, and then I'll just drive out and bounce from house to house. And most of these guys I know. And some of these houses are better than the house I'm going home to live in. It's amazing, Kyle.
Yes, it is. And, you know, winter camping. That's really what it is, Joel. It's winter camping out on the ice. And whether it's one of these wheelhouses, you know, and they're decked out with as many options as you can, as you can imagine up, right? They've got them. And you've got all the amenities of home. But don't also discount the folks who are out there winter camping in their portable shack. Because the last 3-4 years, that's grown immensely in the sport.
What about I don't know what the exact name of it is, so don't laugh at me. Mm-hmm. I call them polar bears when you see them going out there. What is the name of the brand?
The snow bear.
The snow bears.
Yes.
I mean, so they head on across the ice and they are geared up. I got a friend back home that's got one. I spent a day with him. Didn't catch any. Moving on. Didn't catch any. You know, he's just set up to be so portable. And then when I went up to Devil's Lake, you're just seeing more and more of them.
They are. And when you're in a snow bear, you're dressed like you and I are right now, right? You're completely comfortable. It's warm and everything is included. Like you said, when you get to your fishing spot, that machine drops right down to the ice. Mm-hmm. You drill your holes, you start fishing. And again, like you said, fish aren't here. They're not biting. Okay. It hydraulics, it pops up and you drive away. You literally do not go outside.
So, you know, I watch your show and I listen to your show, both on the radio and some of the work you do on TV. What has COVID done to what you do? Because I see a lot of work that you've done on Lake Winnipeg. Has that been completely shut down? Are you still able to go after the big walleyes? Or?
Well, of course, the border was shut down for what was it, 17, 18 months there. And that, of course, prevented us from being able to make those trips north. But you know what? It didn't keep us from ice fishing because there's plenty of places to go locally and around the region. And so we just diverted our plans. Both Scott Brewer and I made a trip to Manitoba. We made that trip in October to fish a open water tournament that we've done in years past. And I tell you what, the process, sure, there's a few more steps involved, right, in terms of what we had to do, but hey, everything went smooth. We got across the border. We were able to enjoy the fishing up there and see a lot of old friends. Mm-hmm. And that is not going to be the last trip we're making this season.
You know, I know Eskimo is part of the people that sponsor you. Mm-hmm. You know, we have an Eskimo, what I call portable fish house. But, you know, it comes in a bag about like this, stands about 4 foot tall. And we put it out on the ice next to the ice skating rink that we flood for the kids, which, by the way, those geese are wrecking it. You know, the geese that are on our lake that are still keeping the water open. But you pop that open, the size of it is unbelievable. And then you put a couple propane heaters in it, and the next thing you know, you got the ultimate warming house.
They are perfect for the warming house, Joel. And that Outbreak, that new model, they don't have to step through the door. They can skate right in and out. I've talked to more people the last 2 years who've used those fish houses for a warming house. And then, of course, they have the ability to pop it back in the bag, head on out to the lake, and they're fishing, too, you know? I mean, he's just so versatile.
Tell people how to find the product.
Yes.
You know, where do they find the work that you guys do?
Well, I tell you what, you know, first and foremost, Gone Outdoors Radio on KFGO and on KWSN. We just have a great out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, correct. That's just a fantastic platform. We're so fortunate to be able to work with all the great folks there. And we do a lot of stuff outside of that as well to complement that. Brewer-Agre Outdoors on any of the social medias or also on our website, brewer-agreoutdoors.com. We do a lot of dirty work. We do a lot of outdoor work with youth. And just promoting the sport and getting folks outdoors.
You do a lot of video work too, which I think is important for people to not just hear it but to see it. I think that's a real cool medium for you to use as an opportunity. I said we didn't talk about hunting at all. You know, first off, here's what I need you to do: get those geese off the middle of my lake that are paddling around and keeping that. You know, we're sitting there. And it's dipped low enough to be iced over.
Easily.
And you look out there, and they're not even moving. I mean, I want them gone. You fix that.
Well, 3 feet of snow covering up those cornfields and grain fields might do it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know.
Well, in the southern end of the valley, we don't have snow
Right.
compared to other places. So are you hearing of anybody, you know, doing really well out there still waterfowl hunting, though? Still hunting geese, or is that over? Nobody's really out there anymore.
Well, you know, there's a few of the diehards that are out doing it, Joel, still. But if you're going to get up that early and be out there and punching holes in a frozen field to put your decoys in, you've got a little extra gas in the tank than probably most folks. So
that's where the fake nails are worth it.
Yeah, that's right.
What about pheasant hunting? What did you hear? What were the reports so far?
You know, what I've heard, Joel, is that it's been very scattered. With the dry weather we had all summer, those birds were looking for places where they could find a water source, and certainly that continues now. And if you were able to find, you know, those conditions where you had a good water source, you had grassland cover, you know, and you could get into the birds, you could have some good trips out of field.
What about in south central North Dakota, where, you know, there was drought conditions? I talked to a couple guys that normally hunt some land out by Ashley. They're not seeing birds like they normally do. No,
there's a lot of places traditionally where folks would go and they're just not seeing them, right? Just like you said. Again, but if you're in the right place, and I don't know what the rhyme or reason was, just based on what folks have told me, if you did find areas where there were birds, you could do really well. And they tended to be bunched up, and then you wouldn't see any for quite some distance.
Well, if you want to write those down for me.
Yeah.
People where they found them. You know, there was a time in the 80s where before it got hot enough to be its own business, right. and maybe, well, I know it had a lot to do with CRP is what happened, but I went and lived basically in the fall out in the Mott region area. And those folks out there trying to make a living off cheap grain, when grain prices were so low, I don't blame them one bit for setting up Cannonball and doing what they could do. That's called business. But before all that, it was a bottle of brandy and a sack of potatoes, or I used to stop in Oaks and get a sack of onions, and they were like, "Oh, thank you. Yeah, go out and shoot some pheasants." Yes. And it was so much fun. It was just so much fun. Talk to some of the folks out there now, and it isn't as though there isn't CRP, but you know, I got a good friend, Aaron Crowder, out in that area, and he just said, "Hey, we've got pheasants, but they're nowhere near what they were when you were here."
Yes.
I mean, are you seeing some of that?
Yeah, I would say that matches up with what I'm hearing. And, you know, to your earlier point, Joel, it still is about the relationship with the landowner. Yeah. Whether some of them have other commitments for their land, and I don't blame them either. You know, we all have to be able to make the most out of what we have for our resources. But still, knocking on a few doors and shaking some hands and getting to know people and being there not just during hunting season. That's the trick.
So deer permits down in North Dakota over the last couple of years, coming back up a little bit. I'm wondering if this is the reason or if my guys have been getting lucky. I had a doe permit this year, so it didn't take me that long. But some of the bucks I'm seeing are big. Some of the bucks I'm seeing are all going on the wall. And I don't remember seeing that many as what I'm seeing this year. Is that because permits are down and they're getting a chance to live a little bit longer? What's going on?
Well, kudos to the North Dakota Game and Fish. Honestly, their management tactics and strategies for our deer herd in North Dakota, they're doing it right. They're providing opportunities for those deer to grow older, to grow larger. And you couple that with, I think, a mentality of folks that want to fill the freezer, they're more apt to say, I'll harvest a doe this year and I'll pass that buck and give them one more year, and then I'll come around and I'll have something to hang on the wall.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just that overall mentality.
Well, I can tell you this, that doe tastes as good as that buck did,
Yes.
but I would have rather been after that buck. But, are you hearing anything more? And the technology, this is just blue-collar Joel, the blue tongue. Are you hearing anything more about that when it comes to our deer herd?
Well, I think obviously it took a hit, right? Our herd took a hit. There were a lot of folks turning their permits back in, their tags back in. And thanks to the folks who did that, right? That was a noble thing to do. There's no doubt it hurt the herd. But the hope now is we get through winter, we replenish some of that moisture, and we don't take a double hit next year.
Yeah. Tell people where to find the product.
Gone Outdoors, KFGO Fargo, KWSN Sioux Falls. We also have podcasts on the radio station websites, kfgo.com, kwsn.com, and brewer-agreoutdoors.com.
Brewer-Agre-outdoors.com. You're going to see a lot of your work there and links to everything else. Kyle, did I mention that I'll be your assistant? You wouldn't have to pay me hardly anything. I'll drive the pickup. I'll just tag along. How's
Let's do it.